Greetings, I am Kron. Today, we will be discussing two important and polarizing figures within the UAP, UFO, skeptic, and debunker community. I'm sure you may know of them well, Mick West and Steven Greenstreet. Mick describes himself as a writer, coder, skeptic, UFO analyst. Steven describes himself as a investigative journalist and filmmaker. Both men are extremely active on the platform called X, formerly known as Twitter. They often engage with users on this platform that are within the UAP UFO community. Both men could be described as debunkers or skeptics when it comes to topics within the field. So today, I believe they both deserve a brief deep dive into their character and posts and things of that nature. It's good to understand the men that are a driving force behind skepticism and debunking within the UAP UFO community and field. First, we will start with Mick West. Mick West was born in 1967 in West Yorkshire, England. As a teenager, he devoured every tabloid, alien abduction tale he could find, and even flirted with the idea that he had psychic abilities. College replaced Ouija boards with source code, and by the mid 1990s, he had co founded Neversoft, the studio behind the first Tony Hawk's Pro Skater games. A lucrative exit let him semi retire to California, where an engineer's instinct met a lifelong love of weird claims. Instead of chasing saucers, he now dismantled them. First, with a blog called Contrail Science. Then he created the forum called Metabunk. His guiding rule: be polite, be transparent, showed the truth and the math, turned him into a mainstream media favorites gentleman debunker of chemtrails, mystery missiles, and Navy UFO videos. He became a U.S. citizen in 2009, but his accent and skepticism remain unmistakably British. Moving on to Steven Greenstreet. He was born in 1979, took a different route to the same battlefield. He launched his career with guerrilla documentaries like The Divided State and the Sundance screened 8, The Mormon Proposition, projects that sharpened his taste for controversy and tight fact checking. A brief stint producing outreach videos for the U.S. State Department taught him how government messaging works. And in 2014, he landed at the New York Post, eventually becoming a senior video producer. In 2019, he created the Post YouTube series, The Basement Office, teaming with former UK Ministry of Defense UFO desk officer Nick Pope. Greenstreet freely admits he once saw a triangular craft over Utah in 2003, but these days he's best known for puncturing sensational UFO claims with dry humor and a reporter's demand for hard evidence. Two men, two origin stories, one coding skate parks, the other chasing headline documentaries, yet both now stand at the same intersection of science, media, and the internet's loudest UFO debate. Looking at Greenstreet's history on the New York Post, you can kind of see a timeline of the things that he's been involved with. It's very interesting looking how he started with Nick Pope to where he is now. Now, we will look at the timeline of both. In 2010, Mick West was on CBS Evening News, and they tapped him to demystify the viral mystery missile off of LA. And he just says it's a contrail from a routine flight, not a secret launch. Mick then was in 2013 on a documentary where he was the lone skeptic on the camera explaining why chemtrails are just physics and jet fuel. 2016, Radio New Zealand profiles Mick as a gentleman science behind Metabunk, spotlighting his rule: never fake evidence, ever. In 2019, Steven Greenstreet launches the basement office for the NY Post with Nick Pope, promising data-driven UFO journalism. The pilot racks up 1 million views in a week. Wow, way to get introduced to the community, Steven. In June 2019, Greenstreet shares his own 2003 Triangle UFO sighting on air, and then immediately plays skeptic to the Navy Tic Tac footage, setting his believer turned doubter tone. In 2020, Mick West, BBC quotes his holiday advice: don't ruin Christmas arguing UFOs with Uncle Bob. Claims facts beat red faces. Now the magic moment. In 2021, they both converge. In May, West goes on CNN's Cuomo Primetime to autopsy 3 Navy UAP videos and calls them camera artifacts. How nice. Very good, Mick. In June, Greenstreet was also on the front page of the New York Post coverage of the Pentagon's 9-page UAP report, labeling it a nothing burger wrapped in hype. Very interesting in 2021 what these men both did. In 2022, Greenstreet drops a 3-part basement office deep dive on Skinwalker Ranch. Calls it Mythbusters for Spooky Cows. August 2022, West publishes a 5,000-word forensic breakdown of the gimbal video, tracing every physics-defying tilt to a simple gimbal lock effect. In 2023, Greenstreet co-writes the Post expose how UFO true believers let Chinese spy balloons slip by, sparking a week-long X-war with Jeremy Corbell. In 2024, Greenstreet covers the Chuck Schumer ET disclosure rally, tweeting live fact checks that trend above the event hashtag. So that's just a brief synopsis of these two interesting gentlemen. I find it interesting and concerning about their divergence and convergence within the UAP field and topic. Now, I want to review some ex-posts, but before I do that, I do have to make mention of some controversy. There is a controversy in regards to Mick West being someone titled Lucky Louie. Inside Wikipedia's talk pages, there's a longtime editor named Lucky Louie who flags UFO articles for fringe sourcing and adds skeptical context. West's critics insist that Mick is in disguise because the edits echo his Metabunk posts and sometimes appear minutes after his tweets. Wow. West flat out denies it, and no check user data trying his IP to the account has been released. The verdict: unverified allegation, circumstantial similarity, zero hard proof. It's still alleged. There is no proof in this. He has also been tied to Susan Gerbic, who runs GSOW, Guerrilla Skeptics, a volunteer crew that polishes science and skepticism pages. Mick has been a guest on Gerbic's podcast and shares her work, but there's no public record of him serving on the GSOW editing team. The link is guilty by association. Gerbic's married to mentalist Mark Edward, which is very interesting why she would marry a psychic. So conspiracy circles spin that into debunkers secretly stage psychic acts. Proven fact, West and Gerbic are friendly allies in the skeptic community, but the allegation of covert coordination, no documentation has been produced yet. So it's all alleged. Now, looking at Mick, we can look at his post here, his latest post. You can kind of see from how he speaks, it's very, very interesting. And we're going to dive more into his tweets, into his language, and into his use of words. He speaks very sharply as if it's a fact. However, these are not facts, they are his thoughts. Anyways, moving forward, going to Mr. Greenstreet, there is a CIA shill or a three-letter agency plant allegation against him. Anytime West or Greenstreet knocks down a viral UFO video clip, someone tweets the cliche, "How much is Langley playing you?" For West, it's the chemtrail crowd. For Greenstreet, post headlines that slice at Pentagon whistleblowers. Neither has worked for U.S. intelligence or has been confirmed. And FOIA searches have turned up nothing. Greenstreet did a short contract for the State Department creating youth outreach videos. Publicly listed, hardly cloak and dagger. So, label equal meme, evidence equal none. The bottom line is allegations and accusations swirl because both men did lucrative methodologies. The only confirmed truth are West's open source forums, Greenstreet's post bylines, and a shared habit of fact checking in public. Everything sits in the interesting but unproven file. So, looking here at Steven Greenstreet's Twitter, we can see just as an hour ago, the UFO movement went from aliens to angels and demons in less than 7 years. There's constantly jabs at anything that mentions Arrow, Lou Elizondo, David Grusch, anything within the subject or the field, which I find very interesting that the focus is high. But it makes sense. It's the topic, right? So, diving deeper into Steven Greenstreet, I was looking at all of his posts in regards to Lou Elizondo. The volume is extremely heavy. He mentions him often. He states that Elizondo has been exposed as a fraud, things are laughable, and you can just see that these posts about Elizondo, there's extreme volume to it. And it's just very interesting. And, I've never heard Lou Elizondo really mention Steven Greenstreet. So I'm really curious as to the slights and somewhat personal ad hominems towards Elizondo. If these men don't even know each other, why would he be so heavily focused on Elizondo? It's very interesting. As we continue to go through the tweets, you can see the behavior pattern yourself. Moving on and moving forward, same from Mr. Greenstreet. We can see his tweets on David Grusch. And he's very focused on him. Grusch still can't enter a skiff. Apparently doesn't have full clearance yet. And I think why he doesn't is a big clue. Very interesting tweet. And he continues with Grusch. He just continues and continues with these posts in regards to David. And maybe one day whistleblower David Grusch will actually be a whistleblower. Wow. Um, I find it just extremely, extremely, extremely intriguing when you just look at these posts, the history of these posts, the language of these posts, and the position that he takes on David Grusch. Again, a man that you don't know. So the ad hominems are very interesting as to why you would still do that. It really drives you to the why. I know who he is. He's a friend of Grusch and knows Elizondo through Grusch. Grusch says they're whacking Earthlings. It's just very interesting. Moving forward, we're going to go to Mick West and see his post in regards to Elizondo, one of his targets. One would think that the person supposedly in charge of a government program to investigate UFOs would be better at investigating UFOs. Instead, Elizondo has been consistently fooled by the simplest of cases. What's going on here? Oh, look who Mick is quoting. Very interesting. Seems like a bit of a tag team. Um, I do actually go after people like Elizondo, Mellon, Nolan, Burchett, and the Pentagon. I don't pick on people who simply see orbs. But Bledsoe is a very influential figure in the UFO world. And I don't just say debunked unless it has. So, again, these are all mentions of Elizondo from Mick West. And if you profile these tweets and you look at the language, it's pretty apparent at how much they speak about him. It appears he's spoken about him every day in May. Um, and it's the focus and the lens upon these individuals is interesting. Moving forward, let's see what Mick West says about David Grusch. So it's very interesting. Grusch, Elizondo, Mellon, these are all targets of Mick West um, in their public comments. Oh, I don't think Arrow is buying their psychic powers. I was referring to people like Elizondo, Latsky, Neal, Grusch, and Stratton. My original comment refers to you, not Arrow. Huh. It's very interesting. What happened to that UFO whistleblower from a couple years ago, David Grusch? Did anything come of his claims? A very, very interesting tweet. Now, as a little added bonus, I decided we should take a look at Matt Ford. Matt Ford is the author of The Good Trouble Show, a groundbreaking series within YouTube. And I see him often commenting about Mick West. And I've learned about the Lucky Louie controversy from The Good Trouble Show. And I look at the content in the same way as I'm looking and analyzing Mick West and Steven Greenstreet. I look also at those that oppose. And there are lots of tweets about Mick. And you can see the Susan Gerbic and Guerrilla Skeptics of Wikipedia controversy. So we've seen all these different things. We need to understand the why. Why is Mick West focused on David Grusch? Why is Steven Greenstreet focused on David Grusch? Why are they focused on debunking them? It's very interesting. Anyways, moving forward. UAP talk isn't going away. Congress keeps scheduling hearings. The Pentagon stands up new task forces, and every shaky phone video keeps coming out. It keeps coming out. It's not going to stop. So in that environment, West and Greenstreet function as an informal quality control system. West sets the evidence bar. If a claim can't survive his geometry checks, spectral plots, or FOIA cross reads, it probably won't stand up in a classified briefing either. Lawmakers, journalists, even Senate staffers follow his threads. When he shows an object is just a jet on a weird bearing, legislative momentum cools. Greenstreet wields a signal to noise framing. His post columns and basement office episodes translates into those forensic debunks into headlines the general public actually reads, often on the same day a claim breaks. By memeing bad evidence and spotlighting mundane explanations, he narrows the narrative window in which hype can spread unchecked. Together, they create a skeptic expectation baseline. Extraordinary footage should come with multi-sensor data. First-hand testimony needs cooperation. Policy built on antidotes invites waste and risk. So when the next Pentagon or NASA report drops, millions of viewers will have preloaded questions about radar tracks, parallax, and sensor error, because these two spent years teaching them how to ask. Whether you applaud or resent their presence, West and Greenstreet help set the default filter through which future UAP disclosures will be judged. My personal theory, I would say here's a hypothesis I can't prove, but quite can't shake yet. West and Greenstreet might be functioning, officially or unofficially, as a filter for classified leaks. Their public mantra is always show the data, show the proof. But notice the trap door. If a witness like David Grusch produces classified material, that witness has just violated federal law. By demanding documentary evidence from people who claim secret knowledge, the skeptics effectively smoke out anyone careless enough to spill restricted intel. West even jabbed Jeremy Corbell on X, warning that passing around and supposedly classified censor readings could land him in prison. A tweet that sounded half caution, half bait. Does that mean Langley signs their paychecks? No hard proof, only circumstantial tells. Their obsession with sourcing, their lightning fast pounces on leaks, and their repeated reminders that classified information can't be shared publicly. So, where's your unclassified evidence? If the mission were to deter real leaks and map out who might have unauthorized material, the line of questioning would do the job. And, important caveat, if this is quiet capture mechanism, it isn't necessarily sinister. Preventing accidental disclosure of genuinely sensitive tech or operations protects everyone. Still, it's worth keeping the possibility in mind whenever their skepticism feels less like debunking and more like a legal dare. So, here's my take. What you're watching on X and YouTube is an information war skirmish. Whenever a claim threatens the comfortable status quo, be it paranormal, UFO, or UAP, West and Greenstreet roll in like the artillery, firing skepticism until the smoke clears. Is that a public service that keeps us honest, or a gatekeeping reflex that buries anything truly disruptive? I've shown you the players. Now I want to hear from you. Drop a comment. Does hard-nosed skepticism move the conversation forward? Or does it just protect the old playbook? Let the debate begin. I am Kron. Be well.